Assassin's Creed Unity. You read the title, you know what you're clicking on. Clicking on a video that says why Assassin's Creed Unity didn't deserve to flop, and why I think it's one of the most underrated Assassin's Creed titles you will find in this entire franchise. Basically, I'm going to tell you my reasons as to why I think Assassin's Creed Unity is an underrated masterpiece, why it didn't deserve to flop, and why it needs to be on your attention. Basically, you heard of this game. If you heard of this game and you think, should I try it out, yes or no? Here's my answer. Yes, you should absolutely try it out because it's a great title. It's an underrated title. It's more Assassin's Creed than what Valhalla is at this point. I will say my reasons for Valhalla later. I'm going to be giving you my reasons, so stick around and please don't forget to leave a like, share, comment and subscribe, and let's get on with the video. Now let's be clear on one thing. Assassin's Creed Unity was a next gen game. It was a next gen game that was intended to be for the Xbox One, which I believe was the main console at the time anyway. And Assassin's Creed Unity, even to this day, even to, till the days of maybe 2040, even 2050, its graphics will still look as if it's next gen. Because this was the first type of Assassin's Creed game that had so many NPCs within one city. And the way the city was designed, you could traverse a lot of the city from, I believe at least 25 to 30% of the city was climbable, and you could go inside and you could see what people were doing, what anybody could be doing at any time. You could even walk through the famous monuments of Paris, the Notre Dame. You could go through the universities, the palaces, the churches, most of it anyway, even the Templar bastions. You could even go through graveyards. You could go through the slums of Paris to the opulence of Paris's wealth and prosperity. And I don't know why I avoided this game at launch, because I just didn't like the historical part or something like that. I had some very, very weird reasons as to why I didn't like the time period. But now that I'm replaying the game again and I'm going back to it, I think to myself, what a big opportunity Assassin's Creed missed in not going in this style of direction. Now, Assassin's Creed Origins I think was needed. It was a much needed wake up for the franchise. I think that it really did well with the open world, because Ancient Egypt just lent itself to that open world game that you needed. So I think it did a really fantastic job in that regard. But going back to Unity. Unity was the title that, because of its rushed launch, left a bad taste in Ubisoft fans and for fans of the franchise, because what we saw and what we got were two different. What do I mean when I say this? Its marketing campaign was through the roof. It was literally been described as the best assassination game you could ever get, and from the gameplay previews it looked great. The Unity co-op missions were really fantastic. The fact that you could have 4 players in one room and you could all do this co-op mission, and the fact that Assassin's Creed Unity's stealth was really the strength of the game. The way you could hide through carts, the way you could blend in through the cities. I think what Assassin's Creed Unity was doing was, it was getting the best of what made Assassin's Creed Revelations 2 and Black Flag great, and was putting it into this game. We're going to be going on to the gameplay, the story, but for now we'll talk about the stealth and what the stealth really did. And the fact was that when I tried to infiltrate the Bastille, for example, or any other big hi-fi locations. When I mean hi-fi, it's a terminology I use, but any historical location that I tried to inherit, it was very difficult for me. I could not just simply infiltrate like this. I had to go and take my time and learn. How do I assassinate from one area to the other? How do I upgrade my skills? How do I become the master assassin? This game is essentially teaching you how to become that master assassin. And within that area of gameplay, you go through dense, angry crowds. You will see France in a reign of turmoil. You'll see that Paris isn't exactly Paris. Paris is literally a city in ruins, a city in madness. It's a city in despair. It's a city that you don't really want to live in, And as Arno, you are basically sort of building your own empire in a way. You're building your own mini kingdom. You're rebuilding parts of a ruined city, and you are doing lots of things here and there. Although one of my main criticisms of Unity is that you're not really running a Brotherhood system, like heavily. as you would be, let's say, in Brotherhood, for example. There was no ability to call assassins to come to your aid, which I feel is a really neglected feature of the series. That what Brotherhood and Revelations did was you could call in assassins whenever you needed to do something. And there wasn't much of an assassin Brotherhood that, say, like a guild system that you could really rely on in Assassin's Creed Unity. So I really felt that Unity lacked. Ultimately, the game lets you live out the assassin fantasy. And you can climb, you can do air assassinations, you can do so many things. Of course, the game's bugs at launch were almost legendary. Too legendary to say the least. But they were legendary. And that was not a great moment. And look, for those of us Assassin's Creed fans, you know, when you expect any game, any product, you want it to come out great. What you don't want it to come out is it being full of bugs. Basically, it had the launch of Cyberpunk, in a way. Like, if Unity was a foreshadower, then Cyberpunk was literally that. The launch was just too much. Because the launch just basically said, look at this buggy game. And because of that, Ubisoft shares plunged. There was basically some really bad stuff going on. I don't want to elaborate too much on it. Now that we are in 2022, when I look at Assassin's Creed Unity right now, I played this game and half the time I just want to explore the entire city, the entire world, you know? I want to see what NPCs are doing. I might see a baker making bread. Every time I want to go back in Notre Dame because they made it so damn beautiful, you just want to keep on going. My main other problem is that something I'm finding in open world games these days. It's just not Assassin's Creed Unity, but the NPCs, of course, have their tasks. They do as they are tasked to do. One thing I'm finding in open world games is that the NPCs are just repeating the same task over and over again. So if a building is being built, that means it's going to be built forever. The same animations, the same things will happen. Not much else is going on. So if NPC 1 does his task, like for example, let's take this lady cooking meat on a fire. You cook meat on the fire, but that's about it. Not much else is going on. I think open world games are suffering from that aspect where the NPCs do their tasks, they do their stuff, but they don't do anything else apart from that. Like what if that NPC goes and sleeps or do whatever? Assassin's Creed Unity, had it launched in the way it's right now, it would have been a guaranteed success. Because it would have ensured two things. One, we would have got that Shay crossover, which was really, really needed. And two, we would have basically gotten an Assassin's Creed title where it would have been the greatest Assassin's Creed game for its generation. Syndicate would not have had such a bad response as it got, and wouldn't have had a lackluster response either. And Syndicate would have been a great success. Basically, you wouldn't have seen Origins, Odyssey and Valhalla go in the direction that it did. But because it didn't do well at launch, that's the reason why we got it. And now with the recent Assassin's Creed titles, we're going to be getting a mixture. Like Mirage and Hexe will be more to Assassin's Creed Unity. Red, Jade, and the other titles, perhaps, may be going to the open world style. And this is where we're currently at right now. I think the story was the main strength of this game, but it was also its main weakness. Now there will be spoilers ahead, so basically I'm going to summarize what I think of the story, and I'm basically going to tell you how I feel about it. You do start with Arno losing his father at a young age, and he basically becomes this assassin. He becomes involved in the Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. When he does get involved, he doesn't get involved because he wants to become an assassin. He gets involved because he is sort of indirectly raised by the Order of the Templars. And he's, in a way, led into the Assassin's Creed Brotherhood system, or whatever you want to call it. Here's the main thing. At this point, we are at a period where the Assassins and the Templars aren't at war with each other as the French Revolution crisis is about to unfold. But rival factions within the Templars and the Assassins hate the fact that they are at peace. They think that they should be at war, that they should be influencing history from this level to that level. And then you have Arno, Dorian and Elise, both caught in this trap of this making, of this political web making, or whatever you want to call it. And then you also have Bellec, who also was a friend of Arno Dorian. But Bellec started to despise the way the assassins were working. He wanted to get rid of the Templars. And to be honest, Bellec was the main character of the story. He was that character, that charismatic assassin that I really would have wanted to play, to be honest. I really wanted more of his story. We get many flashbacks, we get many good amounts of storytelling within it, and we get some quite masterful storytelling as well. The game really does immerse you. The music made by Sarah Schneider is an absolutely fantastic element of the story, because you get some really fantastic stuff that goes on within the story. During the second half is where it begins to collapse. The entire plot with Bellec, with Jaman, and with Elise. The main problem I have with the story in the second half is that you don't directly get involved within the French Revolution. You don't directly influence the events of the French Revolution. You basically witness the events of the French Revolution, but you don't actively involve yourself in it. But hold on, you might say, but we do actively involve ourselves. Well, no you don't, because you are actively involving yourself, let's say for the co-op missions, there's a bit of story missions there, right? Or maybe Dead Kings, it has a bit more story in it. But those are very minuscule events in the French Revolution. In the French Revolution, you're talking about the storming of the Bastille. You're talking about the events of the king and his family trying to escape from Paris. You're talking about the events of the French Revolutionary Army, that's basically a shadow of itself because they got rid of hundreds of competent officers, and including the Navy as well. You don't even have the Battle of Toulon. You don't even have the Battle of Valmy. You don't even have the battles that encompassed the French Revolution. You don't even see much. Yes, you do get to involve yourself with Robespierre, but you don't really involve yourself at the storming of the Bastille, that type of event. Sure, well, actually, you do get it in the, let's say, in the opening moments, maybe, but you don't get enough. You don't get enough of the French Revolution. The story in itself builds itself around you thanks to its world building. As you go through Paris, as you go through the slums of Paris, to the opulence of Paris, you can definitely see the divide between poor and wealthy, but you don't see so much of it within the story. You know, I don't see a scene where Arno is meeting the King of France. I don't see a scene where Arno and Elise are influencing the events, such as, say, for example, in Assassin's Creed 2, like the Borgia, where you are influencing events directly, or maybe where you're doing it in Relevation with Suleiman, for example, right? You aren't doing much of that in the main story. And that's the main problem, because at the end, the story sort of makes you fight the sage's descendant. That's not exciting. What would have been exciting is that had there been, like, for example, I don't think Bellec should have been removed halfway during the story, because Bellec, I think, had a lot more character development, and some of its script must have been cut because of it happens in video game development history. I think that Bellec would have had a awesome character arc that they should have really focused on more, because this story is more or less focused on one assassin, about the ordeals that he goes through to try and make himself an assassin, but that he doesn't become an assassin, then he becomes. Basically, his story of becoming an assassin is a bit of a journey of reluctance, hesitance, and then he finally embraces the assassin ideals, which is very similar to what Edward Kenway's ideals were, in a way. Very similar, but I digress. That is the main reason why I think the story didn't work particularly well. I still think it did a great job in bringing that Assassin's Creed fantasy. I think Assassin's Creed Unity was the culmination, and it should have continued that tradition forward. I think they should have set at Assassin's Creed Unity right. This is where we stopped at the gameplay and stealth levels. Now let's see in the next Assassin's Creed titles how we innovate, how we bring anything new, or we maintain our core thing until it becomes tiring or whatever, and then we innovate once again. But that's not the case. Assassin's Creed Unity didn't even become that. Assassin's Creed Unity could have done more events of French history, and to my shame that they didn't continue this forward, because it was going to be too big to do too much Assassin's Creed stuff. Basically, so much of French history deserves to be in Assassin's Creed game. The 100 Years' War, for example, between Joan of Arc and the English, right? Or the time period of the Three Musketeers, you know? There's so many elements, even the Napoleonic Wars, although I don't know how you're going to carry that out, because the main element of that time period was the battles itself, more or less, and I'm not sure how it would be carried out, but still, you know, I would really love an open world, maybe Assassin's Creed game. Now for those of you that say, oh no, you're talking about open world, I don't like open world. Look, I respect your opinion. If you don't like open world Assassin's Creed games, I thoroughly respect your opinion. If you don't like fantasy elements, I thoroughly respect your opinion. Because I'm someone that likes the new Assassin's Creed titles. I like the new way, but I have my criticisms as well. Let me tell you my story of where I became disenfranchised. Assassin's Creed Odyssey, great Assassin's Creed game, but no. I'm joking. Let me explain what I mean. Assassin's Creed Odyssey, great ancient Greece game, but terrible Assassin's Creed game. Because the main elements of the Assassin's Creed story aren't even in the main element of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And moving on, let's go to Assassin's Creed Valhalla, right? I was excited for Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I thought it was going to be a game that was going to perhaps bring back the Assassin's Creed stuff and maybe integrate that Viking fantasy. And one of the worst mistakes that Assassin's Creed Valhalla did was that. One of the worst mistakes that Assassin's Creed Valhalla didn't go into was that, sure, you went into the countryside and you fought as a Viking warrior, but what else were you doing? Apart from maybe making some alliances here and there, doing things, whatever. Right? You weren't living as an assassin. You weren't fighting. You weren't even breathing. You weren't even thinking of how to be an assassin. You were just going at mindlessly fighting here and there and doing whatever. Now look, I don't mind. I liked it. But at the same time I asked myself, what am I doing as an assassin? Because sure, you were doing assassin stuff and you were trying to get into the Brotherhood, but you had an option where, you know, you could get in, you didn't need to get in, you didn't identify. Yes, you met Basim and Hatham, but you didn't do much. That was the main problem. I didn't feel like I was really into that assassin fantasy, right? Like you go to Paris, you go to the Siege of Paris, right? You go to, let's say, America, right? There is nothing of the assassin stuff. And then we have this mythical DLC where I don't know where the mythical DLC was going. Because even Assassin's Creed Odyssey's Isu lore basically showed why the Isu of Atlantis were basically the worst people on the planet. You know? And there was a reason why humans literally just stopped worshipping them. Right? Even that has some lore consistency. As compared to what Valhalla, I don't know. Valhalla's mythical DLC, I don't know. I don't know. But, why am I saying all of this? How does this relate to AC Unity? Basically, it's me saying, look, this is where Assassin's Creed went in this direction. Had Assassin's Creed Unity been a success, what we might have seen with Valhalla was that Valhalla could have gone to Constantinople, which was even more significantly important than Anglo-Saxon England. It was, because the Vikings fought as the Varangian Guard for the Byzantine Emperor in many battles, whatever you want to call it. You would have gone into Constantinople. You would have gotten that site, that tight city environment. You would have gotten that Assassin's Creed Unity feeling. You know, imagine an Assassin's Creed Viking in the city of Constantinople, the mega city of its time. And people would say, but yes, we've been to Constantinople. It's in Revelations. No, you're going to Ottoman Constantinople. I'm talking about Byzantine Constantinople. I'm talking about the era of Justinian. I'm talking about the era of, so many emperors of that time. You know, Byzantium or Constantinople was one of the great cities of its time. And that's what we would have gotten with that type of, AC Unity feel. And you can even tell that even recently with Assassin's Creed Mirage, they're going back to the roots by looking at Assassin's Creed Unity. Great parkour, realistic parkour, the assassinating your enemies, doing things like that, It's that type of stuff that we need. At the end, Assassin's Creed Unity, just like Cyberpunk 2077, basically became games with disastrous launches, but over time began to be seen as an underrated masterpiece. And this is the fault of both fans and video game developers, because one, we tend to hype ourselves a lot that this video game is going to be great, and even the video game developers, even they seem to get into the hype as well, because who doesn't like hype? Who doesn't like to go on a hype train, and who doesn't like to go and say, oh, this game is going to be great? I think not even the fans, not even the developers want the game to be disastrous at launch. You know, every fan, every video game developer wants their game to be a success. Otherwise, why else would they be in the business in the first place? And Assassin's Creed Unity, I believe, was the victim of an unfortunate right. Let's put it on the schedule and get it out. Because really, Assassin's Creed Unity could have been delayed for a couple of years. Even, you know, there was no need to release it in 2014. They could have easily delayed it. You know, but Ubisoft have to take that every year Assassin's Creed, Call of Duty franchise thing, then that's not good. But it's a great lesson as to why video game developers shouldn't need to rush. And especially in the times we're in, you know, games shouldn't be rushed. But still, they are rushed in this day and age, so it's quite surprising, you know. And let's see. Because I'm still ashamed that Assassin's Creed Unity doesn't have a photo mode. I really wish it did have one. But Assassin's Creed Unity worked because of its immersive world building, excellent soundtrack that made you feel like an assassin. You know, great one-to-one detail on recreation of every single thing that was there in 18th century Paris. Now I don't know how accurate it was, but it was so accurate that when Notre Dame burned down, they even used the recreation of Assassin's Creed Unity's Notre Dame to help them rebuild it. And I don't know what else has been going on apart from that. But Assassin's Creed Unity is a fantastic video game where you can relive the French Revolution, where you can do all of the stuff that you need. I really wish they could go back to Assassin's Creed Unity, because even today its graphics still hold from Origins and Odyssey and Valhalla. Maybe a bit more updated graphics could work. Maybe a 60 FPS patch, maybe more. And one of the main problems with Assassin's Creed Unity is the LOD models. Maybe they could fix that, and maybe they could bring some DLCs, because God knows that this underrated game deserves it. It really does. But look, you know, development on Unity broke down many years ago, and to expect a miraculous new DLC to come in would be a bit of a stretch. But I really think they need to revisit the time period, go into more stories, and basically showcase what Assassin's Creed can be. And please don't forget to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. I will see you on the next video.